Ladies and gentlemen, in late March, the FEC fined Hillary Clinton's campaign $8,000 and the Democratic National Committee $105,000. The reason is because, quote, the campaign mislabeled Steele's work as legal services and legal and compliance consulting in campaign filings, the FEC concluded. Why were they fined? Because, of course, the Steele dossier was not legal. It had nothing to do with legal services, okay? It had nothing to do with legal and compliance consulting. It was about setting up and framing their direct political rival, Donald Trump. Okay, so they were fined by the FEC. Now they're claiming that, well, they're bound by attorney-client privilege or 1,455 documents they're trying to withhold from the Durham probe special counsel has directly to do with attorney-client privilege. Well, they were just fined. They were just fined because they should never have labeled any work pertaining to the Steele dossier as legal, having anything to do with legal services. Okay, that is not the only reason or the only way the Durham probe special counsel is going to circumvent claims by the Clinton campaign that information pertaining to Fusion GPS and Glenn Simpson and Christopher Steele and others should be, and most importantly, the attorneys within the law firm they utilized to obtain the Steele dossier. That's not the only. So the fact that they were fined for misleading, for stating something that was untrue during the campaign about legal services, that's not the only way that the Durham probe special counsel is going to circumvent any attempt at hiding 1,455 pages in data based on the absurd notion of attorney-client privilege. First of all, you can't hide behind attorney-client privilege if you've paid attorneys to commit crimes or to help you do something unethical. Okay, that being said, there's a 2017. So in addition to the fact that the Clinton campaign and the Democratic National Committee were fined for deceiving, for deliberately stating that their efforts to obtain the Steele dossier were simply about legal services, you have Tuesday, November 14, 2017, Washington, D.C., interview of Glenn Simpson, unclassified committee-sensitive, executive session, permanent select committee on intelligence, U.S. House of Representatives, Washington, D.C. And you have Mr. Gowdy and Mr. Simpson. Mr. Gowdy, this is very, very interesting. So, Mr. Gowdy, with respect to this fact pattern, with respect to your firm being retained, were you aware that Law Firm 1 was working on behalf of the DNC? Mr. Simpson, yes, I know they were. The DNC is a client of Law Firm 1. Of course, the law firm, I'll just use the Law Firm 1, I'll refer to them as Law Firm 1, just for the time being. Mr. Simpson, yes, I know they are. The DNC is a client of Law Firm 1. I don't see it. Nobody gave me a document or informed me of that. And then, Mr. Gowdy, paying you to do opposition research into candidate Trump, do you think Law Firm 1 was doing that on their own? No, sir. What I'm trying to explain is that I have been in Washington for several decades, and I spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill, and it was well known to me that Law Firm 1 represented the DNC. You have now numerous examples within this testimony, Mr. Simpson, as I'm trying to explain. I know I've been in Washington for a long time, and Law Firm 1 represents the DNC. Mr. Gowdy, so you knew it by habit and custom? Mr. Simpson, yes. Mr. Gowdy, by habit and custom? Mr. Simpson, I feel like I'm in a difficult position because I have not been released from my client, but by my client to talk about anything that we talked about, but I'm trying to give you the answer that I think you want, which is I was definitely aware Law Firm 1 represented the DNC and that they were the client in this matter. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. We're almost, ladies and gentlemen, at 196,000 subs. I'm reading from legal documents, public record, congressional testimony, and you can read the Igor Danchenko indictment. We'll get to that in a second. But hit subscribe to this channel right now, ladies and gentlemen. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That is below. I'm doing a lot of work, ladies and gentlemen, on the hundreds of billions of dollars in debt that hedge funds have and the margin requirements that are going to be very different at the end of this year that will very likely lead to chaos within financial markets, because you have a huge problem with debt and hedge funds. In addition to skyrocketing inflation, we're heading into a recession, energy costs, gas, oil, through the roof. I talk about all of this. Read my Federalist article below predicting the stock market crash that we're going to see, unfortunately, within the next, let's say, 4 or 5 months, probably sooner. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel. That's below in the pinned comment. We have close to $1 trillion in, according to FINRA, in debt within the U.S. stock market. And I talk about today the quadrillion dollar derivatives market in the world and the fact that $4 trillion in assets belong to hedge funds. It's a really, really frightening scenario that could take place. So hit subscribe to this channel. Hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment. I talk about that in my latest segment in the Stock Market Crash. Definitely subscribe there. And also, my comedy channel, I might do a segment tonight, but I'll probably do a segment tomorrow. It's Indict and Imprison 45. You have people setting up and framing Trump. We're seeing that from the Durham probe special counsel. We're seeing people still think that Trump committed all these crimes. The Indict and Imprison 45 channel is pure satire and comedy, especially when you see Lieutenant Governor of New York indicted. You see a Democratic donor, mega donor, sent to prison for decades for committing truly, truly atrocious, heinous acts and crimes. The epicenter of corruption is definitely not Trump's tax returns or President Trump. So that's where the satire and comedy comes in. I pretend to be an MSNBC pundit or your favorite morally superior liberal Democrat who's a friend or family member. Anyway, hit subscribe. Who thinks that Trump's going to be arrested and sent to prison forever anytime now. Hit subscribe there to the Indict and Imprison 45 channel. Ladies and gentlemen, but definitely have a very important segment on the stock market crash below channel. If you look at page 28, let's go ahead. The Igor Danchenko indictment. You can look. Danchenko's June 15, 2017 statements, he never talked to PR Executive 1, who was an operative of the Clinton campaign, a public relations executive, about anything that showed up in the company reports, and that he did not think PR Executive 1 was involved in any way in those reports were knowingly and intentionally false. In truth and in fact, and as Danchenko well knew, Danchenko had gathered specific information from PR Executive 1 that appeared in the August 22nd, 2016 company reports containing campaign manager one's resignation. And then you have several other knowingly and intentionally false statements. Danchenko's statement asserting that he had not informed friends and associates of his relationship with UK Person 1 and UK investigative firms were knowingly and intentionally false on numerous occasions. And as Danchenko well knew, he had informed PR Executive 1, Subsource 1, and others about his relationship with UK Person 1 and executive UK investigative firm 1. But see, again, you have to understand this ties into the Sussman indictment, lying to James Baker. The point here is that Page 28. Accordingly, Danchenko, January 24, 2017, statements that he never mentioned UK Person 1 or UK investigative firm 1 to his friends or associates that, quote, you are the first people he's told, you, the FBI, are the first people he's told, were knowingly and intentionally false. In truth and in fact, Danchenko well knew Danchenko had informed a number of individuals about his relationship with UK Person 1 and UK investigative firm 1. Such lies were material to the FBI's ongoing investigation because, among other reasons, it was important for the Bureau to understand how discreet or open Danchenko had been with friends and associates about his status. But there are other issues, too. The indictment of Danchenko, the indictment of Michael Sussman, is basically, the government was fed information that wasn't true. Had they known this information wasn't true, they would never have investigated Trump. What the Clinton campaign and others are trying to do is say, it really doesn't matter that we set up and framed Trump. We were working with a law firm, and the law firm is the conduit or the middleman or the intermediary between the Clinton campaign, the DNC, and Danchenko and Steele and Glenn Simpson and all the people who were outsourced, who then compiled lies and deceitful statements to get government officials to investigate Trump. The problem, however, is the following. They, had to pay fines because they broke campaign finance laws, because they lied about legal services, and setting up and framing your direct political rival through the purchase of a dossier is not legal services. So that's number one. You can't claim attorney-client privilege if you're getting fined for lying about attorney-client privilege. And then number two, I read you the Glenn Simpson testimony before Congress. He knew that he was working for the Democratic Party. If the law firm was hired simply as a way to shield the Democratic Party from any negative repercussions of their despicable behavior, then that's not attorney-client privilege. You can't just simply hide behind a law firm and attorneys and say, they were actually purchasing all these and helping us commit these nefarious and despicable, this nefarious and despicable activity. So therefore, it's attorney-client privilege. No, can't do that, because even in testimony, Glenn Simpson of Fusion GPS says, I knew that my client was the Democratic Party and not law firm one. So you can't just simply say, law firm one hired them. Oops, it's attorney-client privilege. And then the Danchenko indictment talks about how he lied to the FBI, but also he knew that one of the sources that he claimed was, proved Trump's link to the Kremlin, that was all tied to a person that had direct ties to the Clinton campaign and Democrats. The whole thing was fabricated. You can't hide behind attorney-client privilege knowing all of these facts. Give me your thoughts below. Hit subscribe right now. Even CNN is talking about it. Definitely hit subscribe to the Stock Market Crash channel below in the pinned comment. My latest segment is in the pinned comment. Thank you.